Hello and welcome to GBN America with me, Patrick Christies, and I've got another very special guest. It is May Mailman, who is a former legal advisor to President Donald J. Trump, and I've got an extensive list here of some of the other job titles as well. Senior Fellow at Independent Women's Law Centre, Vice President at Restoring Integrity and Trust in Elections, more needed than ever, I think, and was previously the Deputy Solicitor General for the state of Ohio. Thank you very, very much, mate. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And we're going to be covering a few bits and bobs today. So we're going to be looking at the kind of LGBT agenda, if we can call it that, and Black Lives Matter and the way that these ideologies are infiltrating, especially young minds. So would you mind by telling me about how, in your view, the LGBT agenda has started infiltrating schools?
Yeah, it's something I think that parents were maybe not that aware of. I was a teacher and I didn't see this when I was a teacher just, more than a decade ago. So I think it is fairly new, but you do have teachers putting up huge banners that have the Pride flag, the Pride Progress flag, BLM. And it's a little bit interesting because I think the court cases that are going to come out of it are actually the ones that used to be used when teachers put up banners that said, "In God we trust." So there's always been a little bit of an issue of how much teachers can bring in their own personal viewpoints. Of course, "In God we trust" appears on our currency. It's not really that controversial, versus trying to talk about sexual positions to kindergartners is a little bit more controversial, or dividing students based on race is completely also inappropriate. But this is something that I think, especially there's a Twitter person, Libs of TikTok, exposed all these liberal teachers saying, "I'm going to indoctrinate my students and look at my classroom." And that was a very, very popular Twitter handle. And I think it exposed a lot of what's going on in American classrooms.
Do you think, you mentioned the flags there, "In God we trust," and those now maybe being replaced or added to with things about the Pride flag or BLM logo and things like that. I mean, do you think there is a push to maybe replace conventional Christian values there?
Oh, 100%. So, there have been reams and reams of cases of whether it's government buildings, schools, courthouses, etc. They want to have the 10 Commandments. They want to have some of these bedrock principles upon which Western democracy is based. Our Judeo-Christian history is based. And, those challenges basically were that things that are part of our history are okay. So it's fine to have a prayer maybe. But now those have become, even if it's legally okay, so unpopular. You are a Christian nationalist and you're trying to make LGBTQAI plus kids feel unwelcome. And so those ideas have really been pushed aside in the classroom. And instead, we're seeing the rise of teachers who are very young people. They're women, and young people and women are the core liberal base in America. Those people are bringing in with them a whole different set of quote unquote values that are not based on any of our Western history, and that are instead based on very divisive, very new, and I think very dangerous ideas.
Okay, they're also, in the case of the gender ideology, very often not based in actual biological or medical fact, which is a problem if you are teaching kids about things like biology or science, for example. Can you play the tape forward a little bit for me, mate? What does this look like in a generation's time for you if nothing is done about it?
So I think, like so much that we've seen in America, it'll actually just end up separating people. So you do see some school districts putting some guardrails in. So the entire state of Florida said, we're not going to teach K through 3 about sexual identity. It's not going to be part of your classroom discussion. And I think smaller districts in other states are saying the same thing. Well, that in my opinion is perfectly lawful. The government can choose to teach or not teach whatever it would like to in its curriculum, but there are some school districts that will say, absolutely, we need, in the state of California, they have not Pride Month, but they have all sorts of weeks throughout the year that are like Transgender Day of Visibility, National Coming Out Week, et cetera, so that you can push this curriculum all throughout the year. And so what I see happening in a free society is actually, it's not that you're going to ultimately stamp out all of this transgender ideology in the classroom. Instead, what you're going to see is people self-selecting. I want my kids to learn. I want them to be able to add. Those people will go to one school, and I want my kid to be extremely confused and depressed for the rest of their lives, and they're going to go to another school.
Yeah, and there'll be the traditional demonization of the parents who send their kids to school to learn as opposed to be indoctrinated, won't there, which will take place. So there'll be some kind of perceived stigma there about, well, your parents are bigoted and you're raising bigoted kids. Do you think that this ideology confuses children and removes parental rights all in one swoop there?
It does. I mean, when you still think that Santa Claus is real, when you don't really know what it means to be a woman or a man, you haven't gone through puberty and things are changing in your body and you smell weird all of a sudden, of course it is confusing to be able to think in your mind that you can choose. And then if you go onto TikTok, and when I testified in Congress about this, the hashtag trans on TikTok had been seen 70 billion times, and that was half a year ago. So this is an epidemic on social media. So not only do you confuse kids, but you're exactly right. You're taking away parental rights. So states like California, they, at a statewide level and certainly at a local level, have rules that prevent information from going to parents, whether that's information about gender transition or whether that's information about what the kid is being called in school. Parents are being left in the dark. And you know what those parents are doing? They're suing. And some of those lawsuits are not quite getting all the way to the court system because the schools are caving and they're settling with the parents because they know what they're doing is wrong.